How's it going, Starlings? Welcome back to another breakdown and review of Stargirl. Now, this week is for episode 6, titled The Justice Society, and it was a very, very fun episode. Probably, out of all of the episodes, they've all been great for their own, specific reasons, but this one I feel was the most fun just because of it was the most action we've got. We're now stepping into that kind of second portion of Stargirl where it's not just about her origin, but the JSA are now found. Granted, we could get more characters down the line, most likely season 2, for those looking at the Green Lantern stuff and all of that, teases with the Thunderbolt pen and whatnot, and we'll get to that a little bit later because some of you have been asking me questions about that. But now that we have got the new Justice Society of America, I mean, that's what this episode is titled, against the Injustice Society, that's when I almost like to say these episodes pack quite the punch. And the choreography at the end of this episode is something I've actually been waiting for the longest time. Some of you may realize that we've been getting little glimpses of that Sportsmaster versus Stargirl fight for months now, actually. And we finally got to see that episode. So yeah, whilst a whole bunch didn't necessarily happen in this episode, it was more about, new JSA members not wanting to give up their new costumes and suits, going out against the Injustice Society, getting their asses whooped. It was still made for a very fun episode. So let's get into this, everyone. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Leave a like on this video to show your support for the channel and the content that I make. I really do appreciate it. And also, while you're at it as well, I have done a review, non-spoiler, for season 2 of Doom Patrol. I actually had a chance to check out the first 3 episodes, and I would love for you guys to check out that video as well, especially if you're a DC Universe fan, considering, well, they made Stargirl. So the episode actually began with Artemis Croc getting knocked down in a potential foul move. I'm not necessarily a fan of American football, so you tell me. Either way, I was actually speculating last week, since we saw Artemis Croc for the first proper time, would we be seeing more of her? And we actually are, considering that she is the daughter of 2 particular characters that, are very much so featured in this episode. Either way, this really gave you a taste, shall we say, of Sportsmaster's personality as well as Tigress, considering that they they killed the coach, and it's not actually the first coach they've killed, but hey, I feel like it's definitely the flavor that is the Injustice Society. So with that in mind, I'm kind of not surprised. But I love that entrance with just Stargirl flying into her room, through the window of her room at the beginning. That was really awesome. But I was waiting for this moment. I think we all were. I love how the staff acted in this moment with Pat just waiting there. It just wanted to get under the bed. This really does spell out some kind of sentience here. I mean, we all have different opinions about how or what is the staff's, life force, or like, does it have a personality? Does it have sentience? But moving swiftly onwards, last week's episode ended with Pat, basically finding out that Courtney has been recruiting people with the JSA's artifacts, their tools, their suits, and he really wasn't happy. And as he pointed out himself, this isn't a joke, Courtney. Even that lantern could kill you. But, he did also mention, thankfully, it won't really do anything without its ring. Now, I really want to maybe make a theory video as to who we could be seeing, potentially wield this lantern. I mean, will we even be seeing it? Jeff Johns has kind of teased that with maybe season 2. What about the Thunderbolt pen? A lot of you, the reason why I wanted to mention this in this video is because I've just forgot to do it the past few episodes, because a lot of you commented saying Mike's friend, Jakeem, may very well, obviously, take up the Thunderbolt pen. That was definitely a reference to Jakeem. However, I don't think that necessarily means we're going to get the new, Johnny Thunder or Jakeem Thunder, if you will, straight away. I think this is definitely some world building. It's going to spell out, or it does spell out, that Jakeem will take up that mantle, but I just don't want anyone to get ahead of themselves. I don't think we're necessarily going to have a Green Lantern wielding, Thunderbolt pen wielding, full force team out there anytime soon. I think it still is going to be concentrating on Wildcat, the new Hourman, the new Dr. Midnight, and of course Stargirl. Now, it's actually interesting because in this moment, Courtney revealed that Rex Tyler and his wife were killed by Solomon Grundy, and this is all actually thanks to Beth, of course, wearing Dr. Midnight's goggles, and if she hadn't have done that, then they wouldn't know any of this. And Pat just essentially dives deeper by saying, who else did you recruit? And it is true. Like, I really did think in Pat's shoes, like, Pat is the kind of, reasonable one here. I mean, I'm sure you will support Courtney, but think about this for a moment. This must sound sound so insane to Pat. Like, high school kids are literally playing dress up as these JSA heroes, these 15-year-olds. Could you even imagine if you were like Pat, you were maybe a sidekick to one of the JSA heroes? They're all dead. They all got brutally murdered. And then these bunch of 15-year-olds in high school start trying to take the mantles. It does sound very insane. And I completely understand his little warning of saying, do you really want them to end up like Joey Zarek? Because yeah, but hey, I guess they're just going to fluke their way through to beating the Injustice Society, and that's kind of the charm of this show. And it's not like Pat when he was a young Stripe C, and then we had the Star Spangled Kid, Sylvester, in that old newspaper clip of them going out at around a similar age. But anyway, we had Icicle. We got some more Injustice Society this episode with him waking up. I think he was having that nightmare of his wife flatlining. It really is obviously the thing that propels him forward in his mission, but then we had Anaya Bowen saying to him that the gym rats are at it again, and we had a bit of intervention from the big cheese that is Icicle, somewhat kind of telling off Sportsmaster and Tigress, saying that this is like the third time we've done this, but we've already been over that. The main exciting point from this moment onwards in the episode is where he's just like, get your suits out of storage, you both go back in action tonight. Now, a lot of people didn't necessarily know that Crusher was Sportsmaster, so I've been careful to like totally say these names, but obviously this episode you all definitively find out who these two are. The parents of Artemis Croc being obviously Tigress and Sportsmaster, and especially from, as what I teased with seeing those clips from the trailers for the longest time now, I couldn't wait for that fight to happen at the end of the episode. This episode also showcased how much these new JSA heroes are enjoying their roles, whereas Yolanda at first was like maybe considering even giving it back to Courtney. In this episode we had her, for example, showing off Ted Grant's fights, and if Ted Grant could come back, so can she, and that was like inspirational for her. Obviously Beth is just freaking talking to her goggles all day long. It's just, she's just wearing them, and I guess nobody thinks anything about her talking to herself because I don't know, I guess she doesn't have a bunch of friends apart from Yolanda and Courtney, but she's very grateful for Chuck to talk to, and I kind of saw this coming, especially considering the beginning of this episode with Pat. This is where Courtney starts to walk back on having recruited them to the new JSA. However, this is where they're actually eager to begin, but she requests the stuff back, but they straight up refuse to give back the items like Wildcat's suit and also Chuck. This is actually potentially very dangerous. Kind of reminded me of what happened with Owlman last episode. If these two, Beth and Yolanda, were kind of a bit more feistier, this could have ended up in a lethal fight. If they're literally refusing to give back extremely dangerous tools that superheroes use. But luckily they're not really as short-tempered as Rick Tyler, because last episode could have been very dangerous. But talking about Rick Tyler, Pat decides to bump into him, confronts him about doing the damage to his uncle's car. He also gives him his father's journal. Now this made a very interesting moment just for the series moving forward, because this journal could help explain what Rex Tyler had found out about the Injustice Society and what they're doing with Project New America. I mean, for all we know, this could reveal to the new JSA and Pat exactly what they're doing, but obviously it was hinted that the journal has been recorded in some kind of code, because everything that Rick was reading, it didn't really make any sense. Even though Beth's goggles, Chuck couldn't decipher it, there's definitely something more going on there. I have to admit, I felt sorry for Pat because, he got said to him, what did Starman use you for? Because as far as I can tell, you didn't do anything. I just feel bad for Pat. Come on, give this man some more credit. He's juggling everything at the minute. Has a load of kids going around using extremely OP superhero artifacts, and then he gets low punches like that. I don't know. I think Pat needs some more credit here. Which, to be fair, he kind of did, and it was great to see Courtney stick up for him throughout the episode. Yet again, it very much so contrasts the beginning of this series to where we're at now. However, what Beth's goggles did pick up is that the Gambler is hacking, and he's referred to as Dr. Midnight's arch nemesis, and they all suit up to essentially go after the Gambler. But talking about another scene just for a second here, we had that little diner scene where the waitress gave a little cake and a candle to Icicle and his son, and I don't know about you guys, which I'm sure you did, because it is kind of hard to miss this. When Icicle's son decided to blow the candle out, well, well, I think they made it incredibly blatant that there was a little bit of an icicle breath when he was blowing out the candle, in a very similar way to how Henry King Jr. is now starting to read minds and he doesn't know really what's going on. Is this our first hint at an Icicle Jr. fully coming to fruition now? It's like the younger generation are really, not only for the Justice Society of America, but also the ISA are stepping up. And this is where we had the new JSA suited up for the very first time. It was great seeing everyone together. Yet again, kind of goes without saying, love the design and production and just costumes from DC Universe. As I said, it goes without saying that they're always usually very consistently amazing. Now at this point, Rick Tyler was a little bit too overexcited to go in there and get some answers. And yeah, we had Gambler hacking to some music, was also gambling on the other screens as well at the same time. I guess, killed two birds with one stone, but that was pretty funny addition. To be honest, it perfectly suits his character and what we've seen from him in the show. It was interesting when they found that dead security guard, because I think in this moment, the reason why the camera decided to stay on their faces for so long is because it's something to realize, like, this moment isn't to be taken so lightly. And that sometimes the repercussions of doing a mission as a superhero means that people can literally die. I think that's something very important to drill into the teenagers' heads, because that is what they are at the end of the day. This may be fun and mystical flying, cosmic staffs and, Chuck AI speaking to you through goggles and a Wildcat suit. But yeah, you kind of need to also realize that real dangerous stuff could happen at the same time. Now, guys, I think we can all agree, I really loved Sportsmaster and Tigress versus the new JSA. I mean, we had our man going in there himself, gets his ass kicked already, but it was really, really fun. I felt like the choreography of this latter part of the episode was really fantastic. It was definitely way above satisfactory. In fact, it was really impressive, especially the Sportsmaster stuff in particular. For example, I loved seeing like the baseballs and how he used them to fly and like attack our man, and it was just using some of Sportsmaster's arsenal, so to speak, and it was just really wicked. Not only the CGI stuff, but also the star fighting with Stargirl. As I mentioned, we saw that in the trailer, and now we actually finally got to see it come to fruition, but obviously with more scenes, and it just, I really applaud them for this. It was some awesome superhero action that I think we've all been craving to see. Obviously, we've had the premise of this show meant to have a new JSA, but sometimes that takes a little bit of development to get into before we get into this cool stuff. And I think episode 6 has been a nice place to appoint this, superhero fighting action ad. And this isn't the only superhero action we're going to get. We're going to have everyone versus what it looks like to be Dragon King and the Injustice Society of America. Like, imagine this fight with Icicle as well. Like, we've got all of that coming up, and I really can't wait, because this fight was awesome within itself. So I wonder what else they can pull off, because I'm sure they're saving best till last. But speaking of this as well, I actually bullet pointed down that Yolanda really needs some general combat training. And in fact, they all do. And I'm glad that they bring this up later on, because, seeing Tigress versus Wildcat, it was badass, but I was thinking this is kind of really unbelievable. Now, I know the suit offers some kind of properties to Yolanda and how it will kind of automatically help her land on her feet and do these other kind of, I'll believe there's some kind of given natural ability if you're wearing the Wildcat suit. But if you're going up against Tigress, I want to see these kids have some training, because I don't know if Wildcat, a newbie Wildcat that is, would stand much of a chance. So I'm glad that later on Pat was referencing some training, which I remember seeing in some of the trailers as well. So we will be getting that hopefully next episode, especially for Beth as well. I mean, I know she's meant to be the newbie superhero out of all of them, but I'm not sure she can keep relying on fire extinguishers. So yeah, we need some training down here very quick. I also really loved that final moment where Stripe arrives just after the bomb was on the staff and it flew away, but luckily it was fine. If this scene felt particularly familiar, that is because this was the very scene that was used in Crisis on Infinite Earths. If you guys remember at the end when we got that new multiverse and we saw Earth 2, we saw the Titans Earth and stuff. Well, on Earth 2, this was the very shot with Stripe behind them, and it turned out that they were actually up against Sportsmaster and Tigress. And to be fair, they ran away. I actually don't blame them because they were kind of outnumbered. Sure, the kids were properly kind of newbie, but then when you see a massive robot arrive, I think that is enough to make you think, okay, I'm going to go now. And also, I was just a big fan of this fight because, you know, I know some people are really big Sportsmaster fans, but some people might just kind of look at this and be like, well, what can a guy in some kind of hockey pads and a baseball bat really do? And I feel like it did a really good job at just showing, you know, and I'm always a big fan of this. This is why I generally prefer vigilantes to metahumans, and the same applies for the opposite end with villains, is because they're just normal guys demonstrating their prowess and kind of ability with being trained. And I feel like Sportsmaster did a good job at holding off his own, you know, with superpowered individuals like Hourman and Stargirl. And so everybody, we're back at Pat's garage now at the end of the episode. Everyone seems to be pretty impressed with Stripe. I'm glad that they also said, I guess Pat, you know, isn't useless or whatever they said. You know, they were kind of impressed with him building this robot. And it was also pretty funny, Courtney talking at the end exactly saying what Pat's been saying this whole time. It is very true because I've been reiterating it quite a bit in the reviews. But yes, they need their training. The new teammates need training, so we'll be getting that. But then we got this Injustice Society of America headquarters scene. So now the satellite codes have been successfully retrieved thanks to Gambler. And the equipment has been retrieved for Dr. Ito, aka Dragon King, except that they need Brainwave. Apparently, without him, Project New America is Project Nothing. However, in this moment, I was thinking, okay, if they can't get Brainwave, are they going to realize maybe that they can use his kid? I doubt it, maybe. We're going to have to wait and see. But if they can't get Brainwave, maybe they're going to realize soon that, obviously, Brainwave Jr., Henry, could be useful to Project New America. And for those wondering about this new fiddler, we actually got a little moment and tease for that, saying, I thought Mozart here was going to wake him up. Obviously, a reference to her using the fiddle to try and get him out of the coma. But that's when one of them said as well, her husband could have. So she's now taken over as the new fiddler after her husband. Maybe he fell in the battle against the Justice Society of America. We don't really know exactly what happened to him right now. But ultimately, it left off with them wanting to find out who the new Justice Society is. Because, you know, I don't think they perceive them as a massive threat, but it's still something that is on their radar nevertheless. And, you know, that was generally the episode. As I said, there wasn't so much crazy stuff going on. It was more about the fun, experimentation, almost superhero suit-up moment of the new Justice Society of America, hence the title of this episode, going up against a couple of the Injustice Society villains. But it would have been a very interesting and different story if Icicle was there in the fight tonight. It could have been very, very dangerous. But yeah, we've got all of that to come. So I thought it was a very solid episode. I guess we're going to expand upon it now in the future with training, and then slowly but surely they're going to be more equipped and ready to take on the Injustice Society of America. But so far, I'm really enjoying Stargirl. It's still going strong. 6 episodes in, I feel like every episode's been relevant, and there's been something to enjoy and take out of it. And, you know, I don't think they're going to fail anytime soon. So let me know what you thought of this episode down in the comments below. What was your favorite moment? Just let me know everything that you thought. And otherwise, just like this video, guys. It really does show your support for the channel. You can talk to me more about this, whether that's in a voice chat or just over text in my Discord community. It's very active. It would be great to see some new members there. Other than that, if you want to support the channel further, I do have a join button. I have a Patreon. You guys know what to do. It's in the description down below if you want to check it out. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.